Welcome, YouTube audience. This is First Watch Rewatch, episode 3. We're discussing the first season of The West Wing, and specifically episodes 7, 8, and 9. I am Tom Duncan.
And I am Sara Shea. And it's official. We have a name this week, which is exciting.
Yes, we do. We very much do.
So thank you to everyone who listened to us quibble about not having a name for 2 whole episodes. It's a total of 3 hours. No name. Now we have one. Yay! I'm excited. Okay. So, Thomas, we are diving back into watching these episodes. Of course, you're watching these on a rewatch. These are first watches for
Yes, I've seen these before.
Me. And the episodes that we're talking today all were broadcast for the first time in the month of November in 1999. And
oh boy, you're bringing in the historical stuff. Okay, all right, let's go.
I am. Mostly because there's nothing super interesting that happens in November. In fact,
Thanksgiving and football?
Thanksgiving and football is fine. I was thinking, we could talk about, the World Series. We're not going to talk about that. There are so many interesting things that happened in 1999 that we never even talked about.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Okay.
For example, January 1st, 1999, that's when the euro currency is established. What the heck?
I thought it was much later than that, but okay, fine.
Okay, but this is also
This is one way to jump into a show about the West Wing, is to discuss random factoids of the historical record of 1999.
I can't help it. But this is also when Clinton was acquitted in his impeachment proceedings.
He was not convicted.
I said acquitted. They basically...
I know what you said.
Okay. So, The Sopranos aired for the first time.
Yes.
Shakespeare in Love wins Best Picture.
Yes.
Futurama starts. These are shows that I've seen, not The Sopranos. Matthew Shepard is killed, which we'll mention again later. Columbine happens. SpongeBob premieres.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm. Owen Hart dies in the ring. I watched that live on TV. WWF. Who? Owen Hart. He's a wrestler.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why I don't know who he is.
Get with the times.
Okay, I'll definitely get into wrestling.
But, music is such a great thing that I love. You love... This is the year that Napster
Sean Parker
is created. Literally June 1st, 1999, Napster.
You know who else was big in 1999? Justin Timberlake.
That is true.
Because I owned that album, No Strings Attached. I still own it.
Still own it? Perfect. Did you ever... we've done this before, yeah. Did you ever try Napster, download things illegally?
So I had LimeWire for a bit. I had
did LimeWire.
something else. I never really did Napster.
Napster sometimes took a long time. I loved LimeWire. My brother and I would just sit around and download stuff over and over. It was really super fun. I didn't think that it was stealing, and I'm so sorry, Metallica, about all of that. This is also the time where JFK Jr. dies in plane crash.
Yep. I do remember that and all the tabloid stuff.
Yes. Woodstock 99 happens over the summer. The Kosovo War is like a big, huge freaking deal. Mm-hmm. There's bombings everywhere, all across Russia and all of that type of stuff. Like, it's just kind of a nutso time. And plane crashes everywhere. And I just wanted to mention that type of stuff. Like, my brain cannot do this show without contextualizing it that way. So I'm so sorry, Thomas, but I had to. And
okay. We kept it to like 3.5 minutes. So
we did. And Alien Gonzalez, I already had mentioned, is something that happens before the end of this year. So it's just all of this stuff keeps coming up, and then it makes what's happening in the show even more interesting to me because some of it is very connected, and I had to kind of remind myself to say it really is super topical. Okay, so we can get into the specific episodes now.
I do want to say just briefly for how the show is structured and how we would normally think about it. Essentially, the off-year elections, the midterms as we usually refer to them, so 1998, 2002, 2006, are the presidential election years in this show because of how the show debuted and premiered and all of that. So the normal 2000 year would be the midterms in how the show is actually structured, 2004, when we're normally... So it's kind of like an odd cycling for how they do this. And again, because it's a political show, I have to kind of mention that just roughly. So for how to watch the show, just keep in mind the next season will handle at least a good portion of like stuff that's going on with the midterms. And then after season 2, it goes and it starts pushing towards a re-election campaign kind of thing. And
I think it's in one of these episodes, and I can't remember which one. Maybe it's in the middle one. But they actually do say we're a year in. And we had been talking about that. How long has this been going on? And so within these 3 episodes, they're like, we've been here basically 12 months and we need to get X, Y, Z done, which I liked at least that information being like anchoring me as a viewer. And I don't know if I would have cared if I had been watching this when it was first on, but now it feels very, very important.
Well, I think in the realm of politics, and particularly when it comes to a presidential administration, you're very much governed by election cycles.
Right.
It's just the natural ebb and flow of national politics.
Right. And again, we had talked about how, I think in our previous episode, how stuff felt a little bit quaint. And this is the time where we had the impeachment of Bill Clinton. He's the president, all of this type of stuff. And gosh darn, that was the biggest thing going, was worrying about Monica Lewinsky. And that even feels quaint now in terms of stuff going on, just in terms of like that was the biggest thing we were worried about. We didn't have... like the economy was up for the first time in a while, all of that type of stuff. So yeah, it's...
In terms of Me Too, it is still very relevant, but in terms of the president having an illicit affair with somebody and it making national headlines, it's very quaint because currently the occupier of the office does have a felony conviction for paying off a porn star.
Right.
Who compared his Johnson to a toadstool. That is in the historical record.
Thank you for reminding us.
Yes, I will give a small disclaimer here, which we have not done at least to this point. We generally mentioned it, I believe, on the pilot episode. But any insinuations to political opinions that we would hold, particularly as it comes to partisan means, are entirely my own. And the other person of this show, my co-host, has generously decided that she will refrain from any type of partisan statements or otherwise. Any reaction she may have may just be completely innocent to my own opinions thereof.
Right. The fact that you just get to express your opinions willy-nilly is a freedom I do not have.
Or at least do not think you should have.
Not in this scenario. If I had a different job, it would be different. Right. So you know what?
That's fair.
I think this might have to be something that we state maybe at the beginning every time.
That's why I'm trying to do it up top here before we get into the nitty gritty, because there are several things that I think are going to be quite partisan throughout every episode of discussing this show in particular.
Correct.
If we're discussing The Sopranos or Dexter, I doubt that will get as politically heavy as we do with this show.
Right.
But this show obviously lends itself to it, and being a different era of politics, it's constantly front of mind to compare where we're at now versus where we were at then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's definitely stuff within these episodes where I was like, "Oh, that would be a different scenario now." So
did you just do a Midwestern ope?
Did I? We'll have to rewind the tape later and look. I don't know.
Is that going to be for a first watch or a rewatch?
That will be on the rewatch of the first watch rewatch. We'll figure out.
You definitely did say ope, but that is traditionally a Midwestern thing.
Osmosis.
Sure. So let's start in with episode 7. It is entitled The State Dinner. Yep. It was directed by Thomas Schlamme, who I believe has directed the most episodes of this season so far. I think he also directed the pilot episode. It was written by Aaron Sorkin and Paul Redford. Debuted on November 10th, 1999. Summary here: the president and his senior staff deal with major problems. A hostage standoff between the FBI and a group of survivalists in Idaho, a preseason hurricane headed towards the Atlantic coast, and the threat of a crippling nationwide trucking strike by the Teamsters, all while preparing for a state dinner to honor the new president of Indonesia, whose behavior is distant and uncommunicative. Toby requests a favor from a senior aide to the Indonesian president. Thank God they didn't put the name here. The aide not only refuses, but also lectures Toby about human rights and for being a hypocrite. At the state dinner, the First Lady Abigail Bartlett makes her first appearance, and Sam sees Lori, who is working as an escort for one of the attendees. In a predictable move to evade the storm, an aircraft carrier task group of the U.S. Navy, including 2 cruisers and 2 destroyers, gets underway from Norfolk, Virginia, and heads into the Atlantic Ocean. However, the hurricane makes a surprise course change and moves directly toward and across the naval vessels. With difficulty, the president chats via radio with a young petty officer in the radio shack aboard a small ship in the task group. Now, we did get our first sighting of the First Lady in this episode.
Yes.
Which I did say was coming.
Yes, you did. And I had forgotten that it was Stockard Channing. And I was like, oh, there she is. Oh, my goodness. And I will be honest, I like Stockard Channing outside of Grease. I know that that's what she's most well known for, probably outside of this. And I have disliked her for a long time because of that movie. And you were right. I immediately liked Abby as a character, and I immediately just liked seeing Stockard Channing in this role. I was pleasantly surprised, and I realized, I had looked to see who she was, but I, brain like a sieve, had conveniently forgotten. So yeah, it was great. Loved seeing her showing up, and loved seeing her calm demeanor with Bartlett, and just saying, I shouldn't have left, like, I'm happy to be here. Like, they seem to genuinely enjoy each other's company. Hopefully that's a thing. But she is steadfast with him and kind of with everybody, and I sincerely enjoyed seeing her.
I feel that, and this is part of the reason I predicted it with you, that you would like her. Mm-hmm. She is one of the stronger female characters that Sorkin has probably ever written into any of his stuff.
Okay.
She is a practicing doctor during most of the show, although there is a spell in there where I won't. Yeah. Anyway, at least right now, she is a practicing doctor. She does have a more significant, or at least substantial, part in season 2, because part of the relationship between her and Bartlett comes to the fore based on disclosures and some other stuff that's happening that I won't get into in case we ever return to season 2. But the strength and calm, the resilience, the resoluteness that she possesses often is a stabilizing force in the show. And I often find with certain Sorkin characters, maybe with the exception of Jessica Chastain's character in Molly's Game, that they're written very much like Donna or like Mandy or any of these other, which is just kind of like anxiety written and constantly high stress, talking very fast, very emotionally, and whatever else. CJ's the only other one that I can really conceive of that has that kind of gravitas, and I swear to a degree that it's not necessarily because of the writing, but it has more to do with the actress's ability to take the writing and project it on screen.
I fully agree with that. It's interesting because it doesn't matter which episode it is. It might be the last one, but Mandy's character, which I'd already said I don't like her, but this sequence of episodes really sent it home for me because every episode, no matter what, she is talking up here. It is high, like, it's a freak out every single time
on the audio.
It will. But she is always at an 11 when you don't need to be at an 11. And when you need to be at an 11, she's like at a 95 and is just spinning out. And she sounds like a banshee to me. And I had said this before. I feel like she's a bad trope, which you've more or less confirmed. And maybe... Well, you already told me she's on her way out, which thank goodness, because she is bad enough that it would almost make me not want to watch the show. If I was watching this contemporaneously and was like, I have no skin in the game, this is a turnoff, I'm not gonna continue. I'm walking out.
Okay, so this is an interesting point that I'm just gonna highlight here for my own sake, that I often hear from you or from other people. So this is not loaned to you. I have never really had the situation in a TV show where I actively dislike a character.
Oh, okay.
I cannot recall. I'm sure there is one, but I can't immediately say for the life of me, like, I really hate this. Excuse me. There is one character on Billions who's just annoying, but he's not so much a fabric part of the show that I don't have to worry about him. But anyway, it's not like they've ever taken me to the point where I won't watch the show as long as there's somebody that I can root for. There's not somebody that draws me away from the show so much that I can't watch it or continue to watch it. For me, what that factor becomes is if I can look around and say, I'm just not interested in any of you. Like, I feel nothing for any of you. I can't root for any of you. That's when I'm usually out on a show. Or if the plot feels so like it's moved ahead of me. That was my problem with Game of Thrones on multiple tries to get into it. I watched the first season in real time. And then when it got to the end of that first season, with the big spoiler that I guess I won't do here, then I was like, I'm out because the one character I was really rooting for is now gone. So that's primarily where I've been at with shows, is can I find somebody? I had the same issue with Succession. During most of the first season, the first few episodes, I was trying to figure out who is the person that I like or that I'm rooting for. And slowly over time, it became more people. But I needed that one person, and I eventually found it so that I really enjoyed the show. But if I don't have that one person, that's my issue more than it is anybody that drives me away from the show because of their behavior. Or, like I've heard that with, for example, you watched How I Met Your Mother for me. And multiple people have said they're driven away from the show by Josh Radnor.
He's annoying. I actually said that to you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not the first nor only person that has said that to me. Like, he, in many ways, to some people, acts too much like, and I hate to put this stereotypically, and this is going to sound probably worse than I'm intending it to be, but a Jewish sitcom character. Like, he's got that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, like the Woody Allen
he
sort
technically
of thing.
is in real life. That is part of his, at least, ethnicity.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's
Okay.
a practicing.
Okay,
But
I can totally see that.
He's got some Seinfeld over-exuberance elements to him kind of thing. And I think that some people that don't buy into the Larry David, the Seinfeld kind of aspect of that just over-exaggerated emotionality at times probably
That's really
find
interesting.
him to...
And it's funny because I'm thinking about it and I'm like, was it a problem for me with the actor or was it a problem for me with the character? Like, would it not matter who was playing that character? Would I just not like the character no matter what? I will have to think about that because I see what you're saying about that specific type of interpretation, but then is it potentially that the character is written that way to a certain degree and they would just find someone who's the same? Or
yeah, and that's fair. I think part of why I'm even bringing it up in the way that I am is I've had somebody literally tell me that the character is quote unquote too Jewish for me. And I don't think he meant it in like a stereotypical or a racial type of connotation, but it's just that aspect piece to it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, and it's interesting. So, saying that you need to find someone to anchor you makes sense. Succession, I watched several episodes and disliked everyone for an extended amount of time and then said I can't go any further because I couldn't find anyone to focus on. So I'm similar in that sense, but I also will fully hate a character and be like, I can't stand this. Now, let's see what happens because since you told me that she leaves, does someone come in to fill that void? I'm saying, do I need to have someone to dislike? Does that make sense? I'm not asking you to predict if someone's going to fill that void. I'm saying let's wait and see what happens. Who becomes the person that I don't like? Or do I chill out? Because throughout all of How I Met Your Mother, I didn't like that character. But Barney is a not likable character, but I loved him. What's wrong with me?
I think that's the issue for most people. So
that's the issue for most people.
You can forgive yourself a bit on that one.
But Game of Thrones, for example, so you only watched the first season. You never watched.
No, I've watched the whole thing.
You've watched the whole thing.
But it took me multiple years later to like try and get into it and then see it as like the whole overall show. And then at a point, I started rooting for Jon Snow, and that was like, all right, now I have my guy.
So it's funny because, well, I've told you how I watched that show. I did not watch anything until right before the last season, and then I got to watch everything all together. There was no waiting for me. I just got to experience it. But I had tried to watch it live, more or less, at the beginning, and I couldn't get into it for whatever reason. I feel like I thought at the beginning, like, the shock factor was too much. So, anyway, the point being is, as much as I may say that I dislike Mandy and she could kill the show for me, I can say that all I want now, knowing that I can't just walk away from the show. I'm going to watch it, right?
Well, you're going to have the opportunity to walk away from the show after the first season.
Correct, because I can refuse to ever talk about it ever again, depending on how I feel at the end.
That's the beauty of the show. If we just don't like or you just don't find it, as long as you've invested the time for the one season, you can walk away. Okay.
You've already threatened me so much about continuing, so we'll have to see.
Threatened?
Threatened. You made overtures, Thomas.
Wow. I feel like there's some slander going on here.
There's not. Right. That's not slander. It's not slander. We have it on record. Okay, somewhere. Roll the tape. Let's get back to the actual episode.
So this is a common refrain for this show, especially early on as it's still finding its footing. And I think you had said these types of episodes annoyed you in the last episode, where there's 4 things going on at once, and there's so much going on that you're having a hard time following all of the pieces.
Yeah.
So did you find this any better in this execution of this episode?
So it's funny because as we're looking back over this, and I'm like, okay, so First Lady shows up. Oh, yeah, I remember that. And then the episode ends on a cliffhanger with the hurricane, and Bartlett is talking to whoever it is, and I'm going to stay with you the whole time.
So, hold on. Since you're an English teacher, whomever.
Noted. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was waiting, because they fade out. I was waiting for there to be some sort of resolution the next episode, and nothing happened, and I got real mad. But it's funny because I'm looking back after that, because that felt like it ended in such a really strong way. I felt really emotionally invested, but all of this other stuff does happen in this episode as well. And I'm like, oh gosh, it wasn't as disorienting as the one that I previously said, too many things going on, but golly gosh, this is a lot. This is like 4 different things in this episode too. And all of them, I think, could have been interesting enough on their own to have more dedicated time.
I think the point of the show is, again, to highlight in some manner how many things happen in a given day in a White House. And it is supposed to be very realistic. Like, okay, when we get to episode 9 and there's the confirmation, and they spend pretty much the entire episode talking about judicial philosophy and how they do it. And we're jumping the gun a little bit, but they slow down and really emphasize that one thing. But in a lot of the other episodes, there's 4 different things going on in a given day. There's an A plot, a B plot, a C plot, and they're all converging back and forth, but you're keeping track of parts of them because that's all you can do. You have 45 minutes to really make this impression, and I think they do a good job with making you care about each of the plots without necessarily having to invest a huge amount of time. Like, the FBI negotiator. And how that just destroys Mandy there for that moment. Like, that's a good moment, but in a story that takes 8 minutes of the entire plot run, maybe not even.
Right. Well, and that's what's so interesting too, is that I wanted to follow that thread of the hostage standoff. Now, that's the morbid curiosity in me. These people in the White House are going to be more removed from all of this. It's stuff talked about in theory rather than in practice. Nobody's boots on the ground in this scenario. But I think there were lots of different sort of issues in the 90s with these types of things, people living off the grid. You have the Branch Davidians down in Waco and all of that type of stuff. And so there's this part of me that was just like, ooh, there's so many cool things that they could have done. And you're right. It is like how many things can happen in one day. And I think they did a pretty good job. Again, like you said, it's maybe 8 minutes overall. I think Mandy's a waste of space, but I did like that we're going to try this and it doesn't work out at all.
Notice that you really don't see any part of the actual state dinner at any one point in time.
No. You see them like in the kitchen when they're trying to do the weird translation thing, which was very funny, but also, come on, it was.
Well, and that's probably more true to form with government than we probably give it credit for. Like the amount of emotional headache and toll that you're going to get because you need 3 translators to go to this one ridiculously remote language, and then the guy speaks English, kind of, So It is what it is.
I giggled. I enjoyed it. I didn't like that. I don't know what happened to the aircraft carrier, and did everybody die? I'm just assuming everybody died, because they just left it hanging there. And so when you have a cliffhanger, the person just hangs on the cliff until they perish. That's what happens. Can I ask you about Sam seeing the girl, Lori? I forget her name every time. Please tell me what you view this plot line as. Like,
Aaron Sorkin trying to rationalize his own behavior.
Okay.
This is a period of time where Aaron Sorkin was not doing things that, at least in this era, were tasteful to normal society. He was doing a lot of drugs.
Okay.
He was in some illicit behaviors. I think this is him writing somewhat about his own experiences, but trying to gild the lily.
Lipstick on a pig kind of thing.
Well, trying to put the best possible version of this out there, and if nothing else, to lie to himself and say that everything that he was doing was okay during this period of time.
Okay.
Because otherwise, why have this in there at all?
Correct. That's my question. I don't necessarily mind it, but I'm also like, this is taking time away from
I don't think
stuff.
we have too much more with this individual plot line. Like, it is contained to season 1. We introduced it in the pilot, and I told you it was going to at least be a recurring thing that would happen over the life of the show, but it would end at a certain point. And it's kind of, Sam's romantic relationships are interesting in season 1, and because he was supposed to be the primary character. But the more it becomes an ensemble show, the less the romantic involvements really happen for him, and we're focusing more on CJ and Danny, and we're focusing more on Toby and his estranged ex-wife who comes back into the picture and that sort of thing.
We're not there yet. Okay, yeah.
And we focus more on the Bartletts and their romantic involvement, and then we focus on Bartlett's youngest daughter, played by Elizabeth Moss. And, well, I won't tell you.
Were there seeds already planted?
Yes.
On that?
Yes.
Fudge. Okay. That's all right.
So you know exactly who I was going to say, but
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Is it
So.
I think it's an interesting sort of philosophical scenario that Sam is in. I don't dislike it as a thought experiment. I think that I do dislike it. It feels like a soap opera to me. So we're veering off into the soap opera or telenovela territory when everything else over here is very, very serious. Like, the silly translation stuff can give me the humor. Okay, that I understand. This, yeah, I think you're
the hurricane and the
well.
FBI standoff and the rest of it can give you your emotional gravity and the rest of it.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say is that, and I think there's a little bit of a missed opportunity here, is you could have commented a lot more on what the purpose of a state dinner is and does, because we're one of the few countries that houses our head of state and our head of nation in the same person. And his ceremonial duties, which are usually, for example, the prime minister is separated from the head of state being the queen. So all of the like lavish visits and the palace intrigue and all the other things that go on with it. Well, I guess it's not the queen anymore. It's the king. I'm sorry. I'm in a several years ago mindset, I guess. But anyway, like 3 years ago. Excuse me.
Oh, I was just saying 30 years ago, like when this show was happening.
Okay. But anyway, the point being that the president not only is the head of diplomacy, but he's also the one who entertains and brings people to the White House and puts on the ball gowns and does all of this pageantry. And what does that say about us? Do we take the opportunity to say things like human rights, where we hold ourselves, at least from the 20th century on, basically the post-war world that we helped create and for the most part prop up, as the head of the free world,
Right.
quote unquote? Is this a ceremonial duty? Do you just highlight your friendship? Do you say something more? Do you how do all of these things go? I think you could have taken an entire episode to devote to the purpose of what is a state dinner? What does it do? What purpose does it serve? I get that in network television, it probably would have been too cumbersome for a set and production design in a non-prestige era for them to actually put on the entirety of a full state dinner kind of thing, with the amount of extras that would be involved and the amount of tables and other things that would be necessary to really carry that out. But that's one area where I think there's a slight missed opportunity here.
Sure. Have you watched The Residents?
I have not.
Okay. So they kind of, it's a limited series. They kind of actually do sort of address this, where you kind of get to see what a big formal gathering would be like. I've attended formal events at the White House with my parents. We were invited for stuff. Nothing like a state dinner, but
sure,
ceremonial type of stuff. And I think you're right. They did have a missed opportunity. What I did like is when they're talking about what are they going to say. I liked when they're doing the press and they're taking all of the pictures and they're just sitting there, hey, how's it going? Great. And I forget it's probably Sam and someone else talking about whether or not they're going to use the word friend and all of those implications. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's Sam and Toby.
Sam and Toby, yeah. And which is why I think if we're talking about the ceremony of all of this type of stuff, and a lot of it is for appearances and not necessarily because it's it's not a chilly hangout like we had in the previous grouping. So therefore, if it's that big of a deal, why the heck does whoever that guy is bring a hooker as his date? That to me seems an even bigger faux pas than Sam having a crush on her, right? We understand how they met, that it was he didn't know all of this stuff, but I don't even remember the guy that she's
an escort.
No, she's an escort. The guy who she's with, I didn't understand why he was important.
He's a fundraiser.
Okay, whatever. So why is he bringing a hooker? And that to me seems to be, if we are this concerned that Sam is having a relationship with her, shouldn't other people be concerned that somebody hanging out at the White House is bringing a hooker with him?
Well, one, in order to identify and know that she is one, unless you have like the Secret Service figuring that, like, you can't call it out, because then how did you know? Kind of thing.
I understand that.
That's one thing. But two, this is kind of a weird realm of politics that we don't do anymore, and it's really only at this like high level of national politics. The fundraisers, the bundlers, the guys who, like, I have 500 people ready to donate $2,000 or whatever, type of thing, and the mass fundraiser type people,
okay,
who put together stuff. And because of Citizens United and the rest of it, and then now going into quote unquote super PACs,
right,
some of this is not necessary. The other thing is that has dramatically changed politics is small dollar donations through either email or text campaigning. And so that's dramatically changed the need for this kind of direct. This guy knows 500, 600 people that are willing to max out to the FCC, or excuse me, the FEC, Federal Elections Commission. Minimums, maximums, et cetera, type of thing. But these guys were always shady. Like, if you go to All the President's Men, and not just the movie, but like start to look into the book and some of the campaign financing, like the guys that were on the payroll and that paid and funded Watergate were kind of these shady guys. And they did a lot of weird activities when they were away from their families. And it's a slightly different era where, as a straight white man with a lot of power in politics and probably a lot of wealth, you can just get away with a lot of shit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility in 1999 that there were plenty of guys doing this and nobody would have said anything.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It is highly inappropriate. Not only to like anybody that has to interact with her, but also to her. Like, that puts her in a terrible situation, particularly given her aspirations outside of this job.
Right. She's going to law school.
But yeah.
Okay. Okay. I mean, so it's the plot of like a teenage comedy, right? Hiring the prostitute to go to prom, or the fake
there are very many sitcom-y elements to this drama.
Yeah.
Which we'll discuss even in other episodes. Like the next one, there's a whole B plot that is very sitcom-y. So that will take us to our segue because we're already 2/3 of the way through.
Darn it! We suck at this. We're really good at it.
We're discussing good and rich topics. It's just you don't want to move off of the conversation just for the sake of keeping it on time, though. But just keeping an eye on the clock and everybody's precious time. I don't want to go too far over, and we still have 2 episodes to go. So we'll move to episode 8, entitled Enemies, directed by Alan Taylor, story by Rick Cleveland, Lawrence O'Donnell Jr., and Patrick Cadell, teleplay by Ron Osborne and Jeff Reno. This debuted on November 17th, 1999. Summary: in an after-midnight session, the president teaches Josh about national parks. CJ deals with a rumor that President Bartlett and Vice President Hoynes have expressed a disagreement with each other during a cabinet meeting. Sam accepts an invitation to a date with Mallory, Leo's daughter, with a condition attached. However, representatives have attached a harm. This one is a little less busy. It's got some stuff going on, but for the most part, a lot of the characters are sitting around a lot in this episode. I would say the 2 primary things that we're talking about is the banking bill, and then like how do they get around it, and they have this, I guess, somewhat artful or elegant solution where they find it at the last hour. But other than them just generally discussing the general politics of do we let the other side kind of pistol whip us around kind of thing, the intrigue on that isn't quite as high. The Sam and Mallory plotline and this is the sitcom-y portion of this episode is somewhat of a bridge episode. Again, we're dealing with the meet cute romantic elements of this show that I think do go much more by the wayside as they lean more into the political nature of what the show is and why certain people watch it. But at least for now, this is what we have to deal with. I don't think there's a huge amount to discuss in this episode, but where are you sitting?
So I had I don't like this little foray. It's too cute. I did like the setup of he's being given this stupid speech or birthday message. I actually liked that, and it being very tongue-in-cheek and taking it seriously, but that informs us about his character in a way that I do like, that he's very, I have to get this right. And
the entire episode is very much character development.
Right. So this is another part of my question. So Leo and his wife, they're separated. Obviously, they have adult children.
Yes.
And we have this thread, right, which is going to feed into the next episode about his substance abuse.
Yes.
Or we think it's just alcoholism at this point. How do I concisely ask this? I don't know if I can, so I'm just going to flub around.
That's fine.
I'm trying to think of like the public perception.
Just flub away.
Flub away. Thank you. We know that in the next episode they are going to be worried about his substance abuse stuff, and we'll address this. But his marriage is falling apart, and this is one of these things where they're worried about the media finding out about him previously being addicted to pills, but not worried about what it would look like that he's basically getting a divorce and he's more or less the second in charge in the White House, as you called it, right? Wouldn't that be a huge, big deal? Are they glossing over it? Would it have not been a big deal? Is this the sort of thing that because I feel like now this would be like, oh my God, this is terrible. The same way that Bartlett taking his cough meds.
Let me ask this. Do you know who Susie Wiles is? And if I told you that Susie Wiles was the current chief of staff to President Orange Goober, that she also developed cancer last week, and no one has mentioned it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't find that the people that are the staff and the administration get nearly as much discussion. Secretaries of various different cabinet positions have media-facing positions, and the press secretary is the most noticeable face outside of the president.
Okay.
So if the president and the first lady were at odds and were potentially on the rocks or like having marital troubles, that would be tabloid. And this is the era of tabloid stuff.
It sure
but
is,
I just don't ever think I can remember anyone giving a damn about a chief of staff.
Okay. And I kind of need some of these like guardrails because...
Sure. Him taking or having seen, again, this is the quaintness of the 90s. People having drug or alcohol addiction issues in this modern era when we're much more forgiving towards those things, especially for people who've been through rehab, they've cleaned up their lives, they've taken responsible choices and the rest of that, no one would give a shit or look twice. But the insinuation that you were ever at a weak point in 1999 would have been a big deal, much in the same way that there was a presidential candidate in 1972 that, because he had electroshock therapy, was basically disqualified because everybody thought he was a nut.
Right. Well, and this is the era, too, where people who are trying to get a nomination for the presidency spin out for whatever reason because they make a weird noise on the campaign trail or things like that, right? So on the one hand, it feels like everything is so fraught and everything could fall apart at any second. But you're right, he's not the person, he's more behind the scenes. And so, yeah, the drug stuff.
There's a difference between the people that everybody perceives to make the decisions and then the people who carry out said decisions.
Sure.
Leo, in many ways, probably does not make a lot of actual final decisions.
Sure.
Unless it's just administrative. Mm-hmm. That all goes to the president, and that's why I think nobody really cares about the administrators. It's like my lawyer has a secretary who's in the middle of some personal thing. I don't care about that. But the minute my lawyer is having problems, now I need to know about that. You know, like if my lawyer's front page for whatever reason, that's a problem. And I think that's ultimately where people like, because again, and I think we get too somewhat involved, and I definitely have a very narrow vision of this as a national news political junkie still to this day. I get focused on this stuff, and then I have to like check my bona fide. The same way that anybody in our film community has to like check themselves with normies, I have to do the same thing with politics. And it's usually my mother who like tunes out and then will like tune in around election time, like 6 months ahead of time. And I just check with her as to like, what have you heard? What stories have broken through? What are you actually seeing? Now, she's being much more radicalized by her feed lately, so it's not as good a source as it used to be.
The look of despair on your face was great.
So I have to usually check in with one of my sisters.
Yeah, okay.
But, you know, everybody's got to have that stabilizing force, because the vast majority of people, first off, in the last election, I think we probably had 150 to 160 million Americans vote, which is a decent amount of turnout for a presidential election.
Yeah.
But when you consider there are 350 million people, that means the majority of the country didn't vote.
Yeah.
And also, in a midterm election like we're going to have this year, even at a high turnout rate, we're probably only going to have 30% of the country voting. So how many people are actually paying attention to half of this shit?
Well,
and at any substantial rate?
How many people are paying attention, but how many people actually have legitimate information and are using their critical thinking skills?
Well, and a lot of things are much more noisy than they used to be. When people would actually have a more contained, narrowed, focused paper that was very specific for how the media structure would go, I think you could break through with the average person a little bit easier. But now that we've broken everybody's media habits, I have no idea what breaks through and what doesn't on any given point in time. Something that I think will be concerning, nobody else will have heard of.
Well, and it seems to me what I am seeing with students. Now, again, I have seniors, so they are almost adults. Some of them can vote. It seems to me whatever they see first is whatever they go with. So two opposing sides, one can be right, one can be wrong, but whichever one they see first is they stick with it. And they are like, I'm taking that side, and anything against it is bad, evil. I'm not listening to anything because I saw this one first. Anything that comes after is wrong. Therefore, it is pure luck of the draw what they encounter first. It's almost seems random what they will latch onto. So whatever buzz thing is happening, if it's flashy enough, they'll pay attention to it. And then even if they right away see something that contradicts it, it's literally the order. That doesn't make them stop and go, oh, things are contradictory, I need more information. They will just stick with whatever the first presentation was.
It's the notion of the default to truth.
Correct. So then you have people who, right, but then you have people now who don't think anything is true. Everything is fake. Everything is AI. Everything is some sort of conspiracy. Everything is terrible.
Okay, so episode 9. No, just kidding. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss about 8 yet?
I did like CJ having to try to figure out what is going on in between the president and the vice president. This feels like a thread that's going to be dealt with later. So I liked the little nugget, little carrot of there's something else going on. I liked the running around trying to deal with like the rumors and stuff going on. That was interesting to me. And I recognized I am waiting for this to play out in the future. But other than that, the national parks, it was cute seeing Bartlett be a nerd about national parks and holding Josh hostage to talk to him in the middle of the night. But I think other than that, this one is not. The middle episodes to me seem to be, it's just how we've divided this up. But the middle episodes in general seem to not sit with me as well.
So I think it's next season, so not this first season, but there is definitely something coming where they fully go through and explain kind of the campaign, and they give you that somewhat of a prequel episode. Like
okay.
going back in time and finding how everybody else joined the campaign, where they found them,
Okay.
that kind of thing, and explain all of that. And I can't remember exactly where it is in the history of the show. I think it's early in season 2.
Okay.
Because I just tried to do a cursory look through just the episodes here and see if that was. But yes, the thing with Hoynes plays out in a couple of different ways. But
Okay.
it is still, as many times as I've seen that one scene of the cabinet meeting and him like really dressing him down kind of stuff, which is very stark, it's something that until you come up to it and you're like, oh yeah, this is that moment. You're like, oh, why would you do that?
Okay.
But yes, oftentimes we're in an environment where, at least recently, or at least for a good period of time. So whether you want to think, I guess Clinton and Al Gore got along fairly well, and they were somewhat close until Gore had to kind of run away from him, which Clinton gave him permission to do. And Cheney and Bush were very close. And Obama and Biden worked very closely together, at least up until like the end, and now they've kind of had their separations due to egos and all sorts of other stuff. But only in the last few years have we had situations where the president and the vice president seemingly have not gotten along. And frankly, Mike Pence of Hang Mike Pence fame got along with Trump fairly well up until the point where Trump...
Where they didn't anymore.
told people to hang him. Or at least didn't stop them or gave them permission to do whatever they needed to do.
Right.
But we're seeing it yet again with somebody kissing ass in the current job where there seems to be no daylight. And so it's kind of an odd situation to flash back to an era where the vice president and the president didn't always get along. Like, they had their issues and they were political rivals and they had their moments.
Right. We had talked about this before, and I had said, I think I had asked you, do we like the vice president? Is he a bad guy? He feels like he's set up to be a villain, or he's positioned that way. And again, I'm waiting to see how it plays out, but my hackles are raised every time we mention him, when he shows up, and I'm just like, nope, I don't like him. Bad things are going to happen, which is, I guess, dramatically interesting. And it does give me some buy-in. And I think that we forgot that the president and the vice president don't have to be best friends.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's
Or
interesting.
one has to kiss ass on the other one.
Right. Right.
All right. So
Okay.
then let's go to episode 9 here, which I think, oddly enough, probably was the one I would have predicted we spent the most time on, but that seemingly won't be the case here tonight because we're already at the hour mark. But episode 9, entitled The Shortlist, directed by Bill D'Elia, story by Aaron Sorkin and Dee Dee Myers, teleplay by Aaron Sorkin and Patrick Cadell. This premiered on November 24th, 1999. Summary: Josh, Sam, and Toby have spent 2 months vetting a strong candidate, Judge Peyton Cabot Harrison III, for an open seat on the Supreme Court, and he consents to the nomination. The senior aides show jubilation, but Donna advises Josh to use cautious optimism. The retiring Associate Justice privately expresses displeasure of the choice to President Bartlett. Sam receives an anonymous tip and is given an old law review note with damaging material, which he reports to his colleagues and the president, who then requests data on a different candidate, Judge Roberto Mendoza, played by Edward James Olmos. Danny gives CJ a goldfish. A contrarian member of Congress seeking publicity, alleges that 1/3 of White House staff members regularly use illicit drugs. Josh tells Leo that the latter is the target of the campaign. After 2 serious meetings in the Oval Office, the president offers the nomination to Judge Mendoza, who accepts. I don't think he actually accepts during the episode, but we do find that out later because he does come up again, at least in one major way in an episode.
I think they literally end the episode with them coming out of the Oval Office and saying congratulations to him, don't they?
Maybe they do. I didn't finish this one in my rewatch today because it had been 2 weeks since I saw these originally,
okay.
Due to scheduling concerns and difficulties. Anyway.
Yes.
The point being that I think this episode rewards but also addresses some concerns with the modern political landscape. I am very much a critic of the fact that Congress has offloaded a lot of its responsibilities and powers. It was written as the Article 1 branch to be the most powerful and exert the most amount of force and authority. And since, I guess, the New Deal era, which I am a proponent of, so this might be somewhat hypocritical, but the administrative state and the vast amount of agencies under the presidential control, and slowly they have said, we want all of the day-to-day running of things to be invested in the president, and then we want all of the very difficult issues so that we don't have to run against them as an elected to be established by the Supreme Court. And so that way we can just continue in this cycle of being constantly reelected without ever having to do anything controversial, which is great when you have no reason, I guess, otherwise to be there. So it just creates this entrenchment where we have long established stuff on one end and we have long established stuff in another that changes, I guess, every 4 years. But that's made the court, in theory, more important than it's probably ever been as the arbiter and, in essence, the chief lawmaker. And so to go to this kind of, first off, this kind of episode that gets into judicial philosophy and constitutional law and whether there's privacy within the Constitution is fucking catnip for me. Mm-hmm. I attend constitutional law conventions in my spare time as a hobby because I'm a fucking nerd.
Which I love that about you. And I really liked this episode for exactly those reasons.
Yeah.
I love this type of philosophical stuff. And I think that it's especially interesting coming on the heels of the last several nominations, which have been so controversial. And really controversial. This one, again,
the Kavanaugh hearings.
This one, to use your word, it was a little bit quaint by comparison.
Well, we haven't gotten to there's some other stuff that comes up during the confirmation process.
Sure. And but as a just this is the initial component. I think at this time the most controversial thing that had happened was when Clarence Thomas was confirmed and Anita Hill and all of that, and pubic hairs on Pepsi cans or whatever it was, like
the Kavanaugh hearings. And do you know what the term boof means, sir? Because you wrote it in your journals from those were fucking wild.
I mean, but this is also kind of why I'm asking, like, if Leo's marriage is falling apart, why is this not front page news when we have stuff like that happening?
Again, this is a decision maker, literally a judge. That is what they do, is decide things.
No, I know. Which is why it is so fascinating that they unearth this statement. And do you believe in a right to privacy? And he actually says,
"Oh yeah,
nope, I don't. I stand by it."
Well,
instead of, I totally feel like you would have someone nowadays try to backpedal a little bit because they would recognize that their job is on the line, and he's like, "Nah."
Yeah, there's a lot that I wish I was on a fly on the wall for when it comes to, and again, bringing this back to real life a little bit.
Yeah.
With the last 3 nominees, Gorsuch, then Kavanaugh, then Coney Barrett,
Yep.
we successively had all the same questions that we've always had about, is Roe established law as in the abortion context? And we chipped away at it for multiple decades with various different decisions, but all of them basically confirmed to the right senators, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, etc., that it was established law. And what do you know? The minute that they get a supermajority on the court, all of a sudden Dobbs comes out. So, like, yes, very much nobody is actually, at least publicly, revealing what is said in those private conversations, which is why I'd love to see if, in private, do they actually say that? And then have, like, this is somewhat, again, because this is an Aaron Sorkin script. He did the story and the teleplay. How much of this is just the idealized version? This is like how things are supposed to work. And we kind of give people credit for having these discussions, because I think even Republicans or conservative members of the court would emphasize that there is a right to privacy for various different things. I find this particular justice's philosophy to be kind of unusual and really out there, because I don't see too many people trying to overturn Griswold v. Connecticut.
Okay, and in the realistic sense, with that sort of viewpoint, that he's doubling down on it or tripling down on it or whatever, even though it was 25 years ago, how did he get as far as he did if that's really the way that he thinks? It seems antithetical to his, like, he can
but
hold
this is from a different judicial era. So, for example... Yep. Because Bush and Reagan appointed people that eventually came to be, like, liberals on the court. Justice Souter was a flip-flop. And so there's been this judicial activism and a specific project by the conservative wing of the court and of law and all of the rest of this to get ideological purity among the people they're going to nominate, because there were too many of them where they nominated a justice where some of these issues just never come up, like privacy. But the ideologically pure test to make sure whom you're nominating is not going to be some weird flip-flop. And so...
sure. And that's why again, you said that this stuff is catnip. I loved it too. I loved that character just went for it and explained it, and it was an easy target, right, for an audience. Here's him being a baddie. He confirms that he's a baddie. Now we're going to go with the guy that was overlooked. I liked that they made mention the only reason that we chose... Okay, Edward James Olmos, by the way, I'm madly in love with him in everything that he does. We only chose him because he's Latino, they say. And so they're kind of acknowledging...
He's a token entry on the short list.
100%. They acknowledge that it's kind of BS. And so, without getting too much into it, and then I liked the championing for him once we realized that Judge Peyton Cabot Harrison, whatever, Jerkface is out. Okay, and we need to buy into the leftovers, but that the leftovers should have been the first pick to begin with, and I liked it.
Well, and they did it for political expediency.
Sure.
Because this is, again, from an era where if you got the right candidate, no one was really going to stand opposed to it. It was not even going to be a partisan thing. Like, you'd often get confirmations that were like 98-2 or something.
Yeah, and you're just like, let's move it along. Yep.
Yeah. And so there would not be many questions. Because you don't want the embarrassment of having to withdraw a nominee. Now it becomes much more of a partisan food fight. And so
genius statement. Love it. Partisan.
It's not mine. It's often used. I'm just borrowing a term, but anyway,
it's great.
But the nature of modern politics has taken it to this degree where it's very much a partisanship fight, which is why they did away with the requirement for a filibuster-proof majority. That's just a simple majority for confirmations anymore, because they basically had to get anybody on the court. Otherwise, we'd probably be down 3 or 4 members. I mean, I personally am not a proponent of the filibuster, because I think that's what's partially entrenched the interests of passing off responsibility and power to the other 2 branches. And so you've overloaded them with responsibility and authority, and it's made for a weaker democracy and less of a 2-party state. But the other thing I will say, and they do get a little bit into criticism of the Democratic Party for the tokenism of having a Latino on the short list. I was much more critical, and I will say so publicly here, that we promised in the last administration, when there was going to be somebody up on the court, that it had to be a black woman. Instead of just saying it was the right person and then it being a black woman, you have now undercut her because she fits a specific role instead of allowing her to be the best candidate. And that is not fair to Ketanji Brown Jackson in the least, who by all means, to me, is probably the farthest left justice we have and is constantly writing some great dissents, in my opinion. But you've now basically made her the tokenist on the court. And
it's literally based on something she cannot control, and completely disparate from Martin Luther King talking about racial equality, all of that type of stuff. You're right. It debases her and the position in a really unfortunate way.
Well, and it's the same kind of tokenism of having my vice presidential candidate will be a person of color and is likely, it's one thing to want to pick somebody of a diverse quality. By a scientific method, diversity is better for just the evolution of society. I mean, it creates a stronger class of different things. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of data to support that the more women you have in specific roles of leadership, the better certain qualities and things will come to the fore. I'm not against any of those, but you're limiting yourself by saying it has to be this from the outset. Mm-hmm. And you're actually disserving yourself and the rest of it by pigeonholing the whole thing. So you could have had an equally deserving candidate that was a white woman, but because she's not black, now we can't nominate her. And I don't find that to be. Let's get away from that small aspect. That is the one part about my own party that I have a very distinct problem with, is we lack the strategic and tactical awareness sometimes, and we say and we throw out things like that we feel are going to be affirmative action and really, help our bona fides. And they really only serve to just say that we're completely out of touch with where everybody else is at. Yeah. So, that being said, privacy is in the Constitution, whether you like it or not, bitches.
Yeah.
There's a Ninth Amendment.
I loved the way that they basically resolved this with having him put his own foot in his mouth and the questioning of it. And I think for, obviously, you as a nerd can enjoy it, but then the lay people can enjoy it who are having it spelled out for them. It was great. I really liked them peeling all of that back, because I like that sort of discourse that happens with people and really peeling back all of the layers. What do you really actually mean? Let's take this to the logical conclusion and see how this isn't going to work if this is your position on things. Here's why that position would be harmful. Here's why you want it to apply to everyone else, but probably not yourself, right? And so the hypocrisy of all of that I liked.
Well, and this is the difference between learning constitutional law as a query and as somebody who's just generally interested in like undergrad, because I think I took 3 or 4 different con law cases in undergrad as part of my poli-sci degree, versus taking it in law school. Mm-hmm. In law school, they're trying to tell you these are the black letter rules, and it won't change, and this is how it is, and this is the interpretation that the court's going to make on you, and yeah. And the rest of it is more theoretical. And I like living in the abstract of the theoretical of this is how we would like things to work. And then we're presented with this question that says, well, have you considered this hypothetical situation? And when it's done that way, I think there could be, and it's very much at the heart of this episode, I think you could get people, the average person, to say, yeah, like if you threw me a curveball on a particular amendment or situation, how I understand my rights as a citizen or how the government can interact with me as a citizen are important things for me to consider for the betterment of my life. How those rules are made, how they're enforced, how each of these things benefits or detracts from our ability to handle all of these things. It's why I love constitutional law, because it is abstract. And that's why I hate the way they teach it in law school, because it's not black letter. It's just not.
Okay. Would you ever, I mean, sidebar, would you ever want to be a judge on any level?
It would depend on the opportunity. I think I have some of the same difficulty that my dad does with it, although some of his more personal feelings aside of the position of a judge, I think I would consider it, but it's only from the standpoint that I would feel difficult about, especially at a federal district court level or even a circuit court level. You don't get to pick any of your cases. You get what's in front of you. And I don't know if I feel the urge or the necessity to decide things on that level. The higher up you go in the federal court system, the more theoretical everything becomes, because you're trying to apply a broad finding to a larger group of people. But the more granular and the further down the food chain you go, such as the district court level, they're doing federal trials in the federal courthouses. So you'd have to be presiding over a federal criminal trial one day, and then a bankruptcy case maybe the next day, and then a Social Security case the next day, or some type of administrative law type of thing. And I just don't know if that's how I'd want to spend my career. That being said, it's a great retirement plan, which is some of what my dad is rubbing off on me right now for that, because you get a very guaranteed salary.
Yeah.
You get some great benefits. You get to pass off a lot of work onto your clerks, which they do. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I just read a decision today that acted like it was a third-year law student, and I just wanted to rip my eyeballs out because they were doing all of the language parsing that I cannot stand, and they were trying to tell me that expressio unius did not apply. Yes, that is a Latin term, so you're welcome. Anyway, my frustrations aside, if you serve in that position for X number of years, you basically get a very good retirement plan. And you usually don't get into a judgeship until you're probably in your 50s anyway.
Well, because
with
you have
the
to
last
be
10 or
elected.
15 years. And then even senior status, where you take like 1/3 of the original caseload that you had, but you get to maintain your salary and all the benefits and everything else. It's a pretty good way to kind of like fade out on a law career. But I don't know. Maybe I'm more Clarence Darrow than I am William Rehnquist.
Such a great reference. Okay, love it. That's a pretty good aspiration to have, I would think.
Okay, so we're going to have to wrap this up because we're going to end up going 90 minutes here.
By the way, I just want to point this out.
Oh, yes, the goldfish.
I brought goldfish.
The actual goldfish, not
the actual goldfish.
Yeah, because I would have been worried had you bought a real living goldfish that it might have died by the time this episode aired.
Right, I would be the Danny in this situation. Can't keep a goldfish alive, for sure. Now, I'm going to say this. I did this because I thought that was super cute. Okay. And the courtship that is happening between CJ and Danny, as much as I don't like Timothy Busfield as a person, I actually find it very charming. And I am into it. I think that I love how she holds her own against him. I love that whole thing where they're walking and he's trying to get her to admit about who the nominee is, and she's just like not having it, and he's been thwarted at every turn, and you can tell that he likes that she's got one over on him, and that he seems to like genuinely like her, which that was my concern at the beginning, right when we first met him. Is he going to be someone who's okay, or is he going to be someone who's manipulative? And
no, I don't think that ever becomes the case. He's a very...
Yeah.
I don't think he has a lot of character depth beyond... He plays in a very limited sandbox with that character.
Sure.
As written.
Sure.
Like, how it's presented now really never changes during the course of the show.
Okay, and you know what? It is so cute. I really like it. And he won me over... Because he's not a bad actor. I just don't like him personally. And I think they're so cute together. And I really like Allison Janney and the way that she kind of is uncertain. I like I like it. Tom, that is not what I was expecting. Okay. And if I didn't like him, I wouldn't have. But I'm gonna definitely be eating goldfish immediately after.
So, we got to try and wrap this up here. We got to rank the episodes 1, 2, 3 here.
Yep.
Personally, I think I would go top being 9, 7 being second, and 8 being last.
I 100% agree. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, Confirmation is the best episode of the 3. The state dinner is the next best. If the state dinner might have been top without the Confirmation one, and the Enemies one is just bleh, not interested.
Now, the 3 that we're going to be covering next week are In Excelsis Deo, Lord John Marbury, and He Shall From Time to Time.
Okay. Yep.
Which covers December and January of, I guess, 1999 and 2000 as Y2K was happening.
Well, that's one of the things that I wanted to mention, because this is a wild time to be alive and living in a metropolis. In Seattle, people were like stockpiling and the end of the world is coming. So there's this sense of ending this episode with the confirmation and Judge Mendoza accepts it at the end, blah, blah, blah. There's this feeling of hope, and yet that is not what anybody was feeling at the time. We were...
That's not true.
Convinced.
I remember a 10-year-old little boy who wanted to stay up to midnight on December 31st, 1999. And he had just seen the ball drop, and he said, I want to last for the next hour because Central Time Zone, there's an hour difference.
Right.
And his dad told him, no, you need to go to bed. If you really want to stay up, just wait for the next millennium.
Well, but
I'll let you guess who those characters are.
Who those characters were. I'm guessing.
All right. But any predictions for the next set of episodes or anything from these episodes projecting forward? We have a couple of different storylines that I can maybe point you in the right direction of.
Okay.
So there is a continuing through line with Judge Mendoza.
Okay, great. Love it.
There's
see it.
additional stuff with CJ and Danny.
Okay.
There's additional stuff with Abby and President Bartlett.
Okay.
There is a couple more things with Mallory and Sam.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think if there's any other major pieces out of these episodes that are ongoing. I think for now that's probably it. But anything on those or any other predictions or otherwise?
So honestly, the Danny character, my prediction, or waiting to see what happened, I think that's more or less been answered, which is good, because I was really on the fence, and this last episode made me feel okay. So hopefully I'm not gonna get the rug pulled out from under me. I was thinking, I hope there's going to be more with Mendoza. Again, I really like Edward James Olmos, but I was also intrigued by this and how is that actual... Did you say they're going to do actual confirmation hearings and stuff?
No, they don't do that, but there is one specific episode that he recurs in during the middle of his, let's say, confirmation battle that... Okay. It doesn't have to do with Congress per se, and it's really hard to state it without basically giving away the ballgame. But he comes back for one episode that I find very impactful.
Okay. Was he on Battlestar Galactica at this time?
I don't know.
Already?
I never watched that show.
Oh, I watched it recently. So, yeah, I'm super interested in that. The thing with Mallory, and I don't care.
It's not a significant plot line.
Yeah. I think that based on... Now, you already said that this is happening, but if I'm just going off my own feelings, my prediction would be we're definitely going to see more of Abby Bartlett. She was too strong of a presence to be a cameo. She definitely needs to be around. So
more. The other one that I forgot is, do you have a prediction on what's happening with Hoynes and Bartlett? I mean, they kind of give you a little bit here that shows the instability of the relationship and why, but they don't give you all of it yet.
One of them has something on the other. It probably Hoynes has something on Bartlett, which I don't want that to be true because he seems so wholesome. But the nature of what it could be, whether it's scandalous, I mean, it has to be scandalous on some level, but what type of scandal? Is it sexual? Is it, all right, great. Perfect. Why are men assholes? Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
I was not signaling anything that there was a sex scandal involved in this.
But you were touching your nose.
For your original statement.
That it's... Hoynes
one
has
or the other has some revealing information.
Other. Okay. But you weren't confirming whether or not it was Hoynes has something on Bartlett.
That is correct. Or the other way around.
Okay.
And I certainly didn't reveal what it may be pertaining to.
Okay.
The one thing I will say is that there will be another leading moment in this season, but it doesn't get majorly addressed until season 2.
Okay. Yeah, it feels like it could head into public fallout territory, and I'm along for the ride.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that takes us basically to the end. Did you have any quick general thoughts or expressions of how you're enjoying it, not enjoying it, anything else other than Mandy can die in a fiery crash?
I think it was our last episode where I said this episode isn't for me, and so 1 out of the 3 I didn't enjoy. I, in general, enjoyed all of these. There was a distinct front runner for me, and I feel emotionally invested, and it is getting really hard to not continue watching, so I'm trying to treat it like
that just means we have to record every week so we can keep churning.
Yes.
Because we already promised the people weekly, and we didn't give them one last week.
But they had 2 episodes from the beginning, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. My math work. I'm not a math teacher. Yeah,
no, I did already correct your English once during this episode, so.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I am.
Okay.
And really, I think what my overall thoughts are is I'm looking forward to just experiencing what is happening rather than having some sort of prediction or I need it to go this way or that way. I want to know the characters more, and so I'm enjoying that.
Yes, it's a very ensemble show, and the nucleus of the characters pretty much remains the same through the first, like, 5 seasons before it really starts to transition to something else at the end. But, you know, like, I did tell you that Rob Lowe and Sam does exit the show about halfway through the run. And Mandy's, I think, only there now. Now that I'm thinking about it, she might be there through the end of season 1. So you may be stuck with her through the end of the season. But she does leave, and then they introduce some new characters here and there, and, you know, some other people that you may be familiar with or may have seen in some other stuff. But for the most part, CJ, Sam, Toby, Josh, Abby, Leo, you know, and even all of the secretarial pool, for the most part, they pretty much remain the same.
Oh, I did, you know, after last episode where I said Charlie shot to the top of my
list. Yeah, Charlie and Bartlett, obviously, too.
Charlie, the lack of Charlie these 3 episodes made me sad.
He will get more to do, but again, this is like his first acting role, so he hasn't really grown into that portion of the show yet. He does, he does over the seasons continue to evolve and be more front-facing. But again, most of these people, like, I don't think anybody knew Bradley Whitford before he was on the show. I don't think anybody knew Richard Schiff or Allison Janney before they were really on this show. You had one name really at the top, and it was supposed to be Martin Sheen. And everybody else is just kind of like, we're bit characters or we were stock character actors for a long time, and now we've gotten our roles, and we're able to, because of this ensemble, buy into it. I guess the other lone exception is Rob Lowe. He was at least a known quantity.
You know where I'd seen Richard Schiff before?
No, Jurassic but I think Park you're going to tell me.
Yeah.
The Lost World? Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of the few Spielberg movies I haven't seen.
I mean,
I think there's only like 6 or 7 of them, so out of like 39. By the way, speaking of Spielberg movies, have you finally watched the one I gave you for Christmas?
You're going to have to wait and find out when I'm on Gmote next. In several weeks.
Is that so?
That's
okay. I guess I will have to find out. We said
we were going to talk about it.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Which also means I have to watch your other one too, if I can find it anywhere. I was having difficulty finding it.
You shouldn't. I'm going to look it up for you right now.
Well, no. We're going to end the show now.
Right. Okay.
So, but all right. So that's going to do it for us at 96 minutes on what's supposed to be a 60-minute show. I'm glad if you were able to follow the entire stream of consciousness that was this last 96 minutes. I think we've had some good discussions. But otherwise, again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.